The night she was forced to wear her sister's wedding dress, the hospital lights flickered, and Areeba felt as if the world itself was warning her to run. The man she was about to marry lay motionless on a bed surrounded by machines, his chest rising only because something artificial allowed it. He was a millionaire, powerful, admired, and completely unconscious. And she was not the woman he had chosen. In that cold hospital room, with the smell of antiseptic and fear hanging heavy in the air, Areeba understood one terrifying truth: her life was being traded away for someone else's convenience. Before the story pulls you deeper into what happened next, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even broken beginnings can lead to beautiful endings, please like this video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Areeba had always lived in the shadow of her older sister, Manor. Where Manor was confident, admired, and effortlessly loved by their parents, Areeba was quiet, obedient, and often invisible. Their family was not poor, but pride mattered more than comfort, and reputation mattered more than happiness. When Manor became engaged to Faraz Malik, a self-made millionaire whose name carried weight in business circles, the family felt they had finally reached the height of their social dreams. The wedding preparations were extravagant, the expectations even more so, and Areeba was expected to play her role silently, smiling from the sidelines. Then, just weeks before the wedding, everything collapsed. A car accident on a rain-slicked highway left Faraz in a coma, suspended between life and death. The doctors spoke in careful terms, avoiding promises. Manor, who had once spoken endlessly about love and destiny, began to withdraw. Fear replaced excitement. The future she had imagined suddenly looked heavy and uncertain, tied to hospital corridors and whispered medical updates. Slowly, and then all at once, she refused to go through with the marriage. The problem was not just emotional. Contracts had been signed, announcements made, reputations entangled. Faraz's powerful family expected the wedding to proceed, believing that commitment was proven not in joy but in crisis. A scandal loomed, one that could stain both families. That was when the impossible idea was spoken aloud, first as a suggestion, then as an order. Areeba would take her sister's place. She would marry the man in a coma, keep the alliance intact, and save the family's honor. No one asked Areeba what she wanted. Her tears were met with lectures about duty and sacrifice. She was reminded of everything her family had given her, of how much she owed them. The wedding took place not in a grand hall but in a hospital prayer room, quiet and sterile. Areeba signed her name with trembling hands, feeling as though she were signing away her own existence. She became a wife without a husband who could see her face, hear her voice, or even know her name. The days that followed were the hardest of her life. She moved into Faraz's large, echoing house, where every room felt unfamiliar and every object reminded her that she did not belong there. The staff treated her with a mixture of curiosity and pity. Some whispered that she was lucky, married to wealth without effort. Others looked at her as if she were a ghost, a temporary replacement. At night, alone in a room meant for a couple, Areeba cried quietly, wondering how her life had turned into something so unreal. Yet every morning, she went to the hospital. She sat beside Faraz's bed, even when no one expected her to. She learned the rhythm of the machines, the subtle changes in his breathing, the way sunlight fell across his still face in the afternoon. At first, she spoke only in her thoughts, too shy and unsure to speak aloud. Over time, the silence became unbearable, and she began to talk. She told him about small things, about the birds she saw outside the window, about her childhood dreams of becoming a teacher, about the fear that lived in her chest. There was no response. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Manor rarely visited, and when she did, guilt and relief battled on her face. Areeba carried the weight alone. The doctors warned that coma patients might never wake, that hope should be realistic. But something inside Areeba refused to let go. She read medical articles late into the night, learned about stimulation and recovery, and began doing small things that others overlooked. She played soft music, changed the tone of her voice, adjusted his room to let in more light. Slowly, unbelievably, subtle changes appeared. A twitch of a finger. A change in heart rate when she spoke. The nurses noticed. The doctors raised cautious eyebrows. Areeba clung to those moments like lifelines. For the first time since the forced marriage, she felt purpose instead of helplessness. She was no longer just enduring her fate, she was fighting for something meaningful. When Faraz finally opened his eyes, it felt like a miracle that belonged to no one else but her. Recovery was slow and painful. He did not remember the accident clearly, nor the wedding that had tied him to a stranger. When he learned the truth, confusion and anger surfaced, directed not at Areeba but at the situation itself. She expected rejection, even resentment. Instead, he asked to understand her. He listened as she explained her family, the pressure, the fear, and the quiet hope that had kept her by his side when she could have walked away. As Faraz regained strength, the balance of power shifted. He began to see the world differently, less driven by deals and appearances, more aware of human cost. He noticed Areeba's gentleness, her intelligence, the way she never complained despite everything she had endured. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her not as a replacement or a burden, but as a person with depth and value. The family dynamics grew tense. Manor struggled with jealousy and regret. Their parents avoided difficult conversations, pretending everything had worked out as intended. But Areeba was changing. The timid girl who once bowed her head now spoke with quiet confidence. She pursued her education again, supported by Faraz, who encouraged her independence rather than controlling it. The house that once felt like a prison slowly transformed into a place of growth. Love did not arrive dramatically. It arrived in moments of understanding, in shared mornings, in mutual respect. Areeba realized that the marriage born of coercion was becoming something chosen, something real. The pain of the past did not disappear, but it softened, reshaped into strength. She learned that her worth was not defined by her family's decisions or her sister's abandonment, but by her own resilience. Near the end of this journey, when Faraz stood fully healed and the truth was finally spoken openly to everyone, Areeba felt a release she had never known. She had entered this life as a sacrifice and emerged as an equal. The girl who had been forced into silence found her voice, not through rebellion, but through unwavering kindness and courage. If this story has reached into your heart, if Areeba's journey of pain, patience, and unexpected love has moved you even a little, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement tells us that stories of hope still matter. Before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words help this community connect through shared emotion. In the end, Areeba did not just survive a forced marriage and a broken beginning. She transformed it into a life built on dignity, compassion, and self-worth. What began in a hospital room filled with fear ended in a future shaped by choice. And in that transformation lies the reminder that even when life is decided for us, the meaning we create is still our own.